Okay, so I think we're ready to get started now. So I hope everyone's doing okay. I hope daylight savings didn't completely ruin anyone's like sleeping schedules or anything. But first of all, you were supposed to do the remaining week 7 sections uh, over the weekend, and if you haven't yet, before when it's due, which is going to be the 18th. So for those of you who have completed it, because I did see that some of you did, how did you find them?
Pretty easy, somewhat.
That's good.
It's getting a little. I mean, I think as we go on, they want more and more to expect of us.
Yeah. Well, functions are one of the key things you got to learn in C++. They're extremely useful. So it's good that you guys found it easy. And you can see its practical uses. So I was taking some time to look at the labs, and I chose 3 that I really liked. 7.11 is very good because it demonstrates passing by reference. 7.12 removes spaces. That's also it's also very good. You just have to write a function, and then maximum numbers. That's also very good. The other 2 labs are okay too, but I don't think we would have time for them. But before we get into the labs, was there any part of the sections that gave anyone any difficulty? We can address them before we start. Okay, so if there's no questions, we'll go ahead and start. So please open your Zybooks to 7.11 lab swapping variables. Okay, so as I said before, Slayman Toki said 7.5. Oh, did you want to look at section 7.5? Okay, we can look at it. The second activity? Sure. The second activity. That's this one, right? Okay. Yeah, we can look at this. So this challenge activity says write a second convert to inches with 2 double parameters, num feet and num inches, that returns the total number of inches. For example, convert to inches, 4 is the number of feet and 6 is the number of inches. So it would take 4 times 12 because we're converting feet to inches, and I'll return 48, but then add 6 more, and then that'll allow us to return 54, right? So let's see what we gotta do here. Wait a second. So I take it that it just wants us to add to this definition that was already made, right? Okay. So, oh no, instead of adding to this definition, I think we have to make a new definition, right? Because it says write a second convert to inches with 2 parameters, right? Okay. Yeah, we can do that. So when I read these instructions the first time, the way I thought it wanted us to do it was change this definition and then have the new parameter be have a default number. Like there's num feet here. I thought it meant to make another variable called double num inches and have it be a default. But no, it actually wants us to write a second definition so that this call calls this one, but this call would call the one that we made. So here's how I would approach this. So we need to make another convert to inches, and it's also going to be of type double, right? So I'm going to say double convert to inches, right? And then it's going to take two doubles. One is going to be called num feet, and the other one is going to be called num inches, right? So we're going to say double num feet, and then double num inches. Like that, see? Now, so the math that we got to do is provided to us. We have to take num feet and multiply it by 12, and then add it to whatever inches is, right? So I'm going to say return, and I'm going to have parentheses here, right? Because I want to have like an order of operations. So I'm going to take num feet and multiply it by 12. So num feet 12. And then I'm going to add whatever num inches was, right? So I'm going to say plus num inches. And I believe that's it, right? I think this would work. Because there's two user-defined functions with the same name, right? One that takes one parameter and another one, which we just wrote, that takes two. So this call would call the definition that we wrote that had two parameters, but this call would call this one, the one that only takes one parameter, right? So I believe this would work. Let's try it. Yeah, it works. Is that what you wanted, Mr. Simon Toki? Are we good? Okay, I get it. I didn't put the second double num feet. Yeah. So so the thing is, you can actually have multiple definitions that have the same name, like but have different parameters, because there might be situations where you might not have all the parameters you need, but you can still perform the thing that you want. Like for instance here, if you only have num feet, it's assumed that inches is 0, right? And that's why it's not included. But yeah, so we have two definitions with the same name. But if you're good with that, we can go back to the labs now. Before we move on, did anyone else have any difficulty with the sections? Okay, I think we're all good now. So I'll go ahead and go back. Okay, so 7.11 says swapping variables. Now, like I said before, the reason why I like this lab is because it demonstrates passing by reference, right? Because if you recall before, like this is the program that I wrote in the last section. So this int variable called an int is in the scope of the main function. So I can't pass an int to another function because what would happen as a result is that it would just take a copy of an int and call it whatever it calls it. In this case, it's going to be a. But if I wanted to change the value of an int directly, I would have to pass my reference by putting the address of operator over here, right? So the way that pertains to this lab is that we need to write a program whose input is 2 integers, right? And whose output is the 2 integers swapped. So if user val1 was equal to 3 and user val2 was equal to 8, it wants us to switch it so that user val1 becomes equal to 8 and user val2 becomes equal to 3, right? So, how would we go about doing this? Do you guys want to write the main function first, or do you want to write the function definition first? What do you guys want to do? Define first? Okay. So here's what we're going to do. Because this function is not returning anything and it's just doing a process like switching 2 values, this is going to be a void function, right? Because it's not returning a sort of data type. So I'm going to take this line here and copy it directly here, okay? Let's add our squiggly braces. Now, here's the thing. I want to swap user val1 and user val2. However, the catch is I can't say something like this, right? I can't say user val1 equals user val2, and then user val2 equals user val1. I can't just say something like this. Can anyone tell me why this logic is flawed?
Because the value of user val1 gets lost.
Exactly. So I think what I have to do here is make a temporary variable that holds the value of user val1 and then saves it so that I can copy it to user val2 after the reassignment, right? So let's do this. Let's make a new temp variable. These are ints, so I'm going to make another variable of type int, right? And this is going to be our place, like our temporary variable or our placeholder variable. What do you want to call it? We should give it some sort of identifier. Do you want to just call it holder variable, or I don't know, temp var for temporary variable, val holder? Okay, val holder. Okay, so I will say val holder is equal to user val1, right? And then user val1 will become equal to user val2, and then I'll say user val2 equals val holder, right? So I'll take this, put it there. And that's actually it for a definition. So we're ready to write the main function now. So what exactly is the main function trying to do? Well, it needs to accept 2 inputs. So the way I see it, I need to have 2 cins, right? And I need to declare 2 int variables. And I have to give these ints names. And what do you want to call them? Oops. Int. So what should we name our ints? Just int A and int B? Or It doesn't really matter what we name them since they're gonna get passed anyways. I think I want to name them int A and int B. I think that's good, right? Int A and int B, like that. And then next thing we gotta do is have the program see in those values. So we will say see in int A and int B, right? So after this line, when the values of int A and B are loaded into memory, the very last thing we gotta do is call our function, and it will automatically swap the two values for us, right? So I will say swap values. Right? Swap. And we will pass int A and int B as parameters 1 and 2, right? And it works because they're both of type int, and swap values requires two ints, right? Int A, int B. I believe we're finished. What do you guys say? Yeah, I think we're finished. So let's go ahead and submit this and see if it works. So it worked for most of the tests. Let's see what went wrong here. Your program increases output.
So that probably means something's wrong with the main function.
Oh yeah, you are right. One thing that I forgot to do is output the two variables after I swap them. So let me just, I actually need one more line of code that outputs int A and B. And, oh, not C in, C out, int A. Yeah, I swapped them, but I completely forgot to output them, so my bad. Let's try this.
We may need a space between them.
Oh yeah, you're right. We do need a space between them.
And then you need to put a new line afterwards.
Yeah. You guys are absolutely right. Thank you. Y'all are sharp. I appreciate that. And that should be it. Yep, it works. So yeah, this is very good. It's to do this, you gotta understand the basic concept of passing by reference. So I'm gonna copy this code into here actually. Now you can probably guess what would happen if I didn't have these address of symbols there. It didn't swap them because I'm not swapping the two variables themselves. I'm swapping copies of them. And so that's the reason why I need to have the address of operators in front of the data types. So that's, I'm working with the variables directly and not copies of them. So if I said 5 and 6 again, yep, it swaps them. Okay. But you guys already knew that. Okay, so now that we got that, if you all got this code already, we can move on to the next lab. We good? Okay. Let's go back. This next lab is also very good. So lab 7.12 says remove spaces. So it says write a program that removes all spaces from the given input. Okay. So for example, if the input is hello, my name is John, the output will be the string, but the spaces are erased. See? Your program must define and call the following function called remove spaces. And notice here that remove spaces is not a void function. It's returning a data type. It's going to be returning a string, which is going to be whatever this thing is without the spaces, right? So yeah, your program must define and call the following function. The function should return a string representing the input string without spaces. So yes, again, this is a very simple lab. So we got to do two things. One, we got to define the function, and then we got to define the int main. Which one do you guys want to do first? You want to write the definition or do the int main? You want to define? Okay. Okay. So this is the first line of our definition. So I'm gonna go ahead and take this and put it right over here. We'll add our squiggly brackets. Okay. So we're working with a string called user string, and we have to return a string that's the same thing as this, but with no spaces, right? So here's what I think. Valerie Moore says in the chat, I feel like it's easier to take it out since it's written. Yeah, like that's what I like to do too. I like to write the definitions first so that it's ready to use after I finish my int main. But yeah, that's good for pointing that out. So how would you guys go about doing this? I have one idea in mind, but I want to know what you guys would come up with. How would you return a string that's this thing without the spaces? Does anyone have any ideas? Okay, well, I'll tell you my idea. I think I'm going to have an initial string that's just going to be quotation mark, quotation mark. So it's going to be an empty string. Like string. And this is going to be the string that I'm going to return at the end. Like that. And have it be equal to nothing, just an empty string. And then I'm going to have a for loop that iterates through the entirety of user string, depending on how long the string is. And as you guys already know, actually, you guys tell me, what is the function that allows us to get the size of the string? Does anyone remember? Because we're going to need that if we're going to make a for loop.
Dot size.
Dot size, exactly. Does anybody remember what library it was that gives us dot size?
String library.
The string one, yeah. So I will include string at the top. So now that I got that, I can start writing my for loop, right? So I will say for int I equals 0. I is less than user string dot size, right? size. And then as always, size is a function, so it needs open close parentheses. And then lastly, we will increment I every time we iterate. Okay, so now that I have a for loop that iterates through each character, I'm going to have to do a check at each index to see if that specific character is a space or not. So if it's a space, I'm not going to concatenate it to my string return. But if it's not a space, I am going to concatenate it to string return, right? So I'm going to have an if statement here, right? How would I write this? What do you guys think?
Well, you could check if the user string at I is not equal to a space.
Yep, user string dot at I is not equal to space. So if this is true, if this statement is true and the character I'm not looking at, or and the character I'm looking at is not a space, I will concatenate, right? And remember the at function is a function that takes a parameter. It takes an int as whatever the index is. In this case, it's going to be I. And notice that I have for the space, I have single quotes instead of double quotes. And that's because uses a string dot at always returns a car or a char. So I'm going to have to put single quotes instead to indicate, hey, this space is going to be a car, right? So now that I got this if statement, now I can do what I want to do and concatenates whatever this character is to my string. Now, you might say that I might have to do something if this thing is not true, but here's the thing. If this statement wasn't true and I am looking at a space, what am I going to do? I'm not going to do anything, right? So I don't need an else at the end. So I don't need to say else, whatever. So now that I got this, I will say my string return now I could when it comes to concatenating strings, I could actually do it one of two ways. I'm going to show you the first way here. This is the long method. I'll say string return equals string return plus user string dot at. I could do it this way, but the shorthand version of this is instead of saying equals, I say plus equals, right? So the shorthand version would be string return plus equals, and then this. So this would actually accomplish the exact same thing that this is, but it doesn't really matter how we do it. They're both good. I'm actually going to keep this one because it's a shorter version, so I'll delete this line. Okay, perfect. So there's one last thing that this definition needs. Because this I had this as string return.append user string dot at I, but it kept throwing an error. We'll tend to your error in one moment, Logan James Ashbaugh. But I think I already know why that's working as an error though. And then the last definition, the last thing the definition needs is going to be return because it needs to return a string because this is a type string. All right, so now that this definition is done, I can tend to Mr. Logan James Ashbaugh. So, Mr. Ashbaugh, I think I know the reason why append isn't working. You see, the append function needs to accept a string in order to append to whatever the thing that you're trying to append to, right? The problem is user string dot at returns a car. And I think that's the reason why it's not working because a car isn't a string. So using append here wouldn't really work. Does that make sense? Yeah, but yeah, so that's a good thing to point out. Append wouldn't work because we're dealing with cars and not. I think you have to use the pushback function for a car. Oh, maybe. But the only pushback function I know of pertains to vectors. I don't know if it pertains to strings though. But yeah, so you think it can? Okay. So, but yeah, that's a good thing to point out. The append function wouldn't work here because we're dealing with cars and not strings. We should use this instead. But anyways, back to the lab stuff. Now that we have our finished definition, we can write the main function now. So this input is going to be some sort of input that has spaces between, right? So does anybody remember what I have to, since I have to retrieve this entire line as the input, what would I use instead of cin? Does anybody remember?
Get line.
Get line, exactly. So I'm going to say get line cin, comma. Well, I actually have to say my variable first. So I'm going to say string. We need to give the string a name. What do you guys want to name it? Maybe user string or user input. User input. And then I'll say user input here. So whatever we put in, even if it has spaces, it'll be passed to user input. Okay. So now that that's going to be put to memory, the next thing we got to do is pass user input to the function and have the function do its thing, right? So I'm going to say cout, and then I'm going to call my function, which, as you already know, is going to be remove spaces. Now, for the one argument that I'm passing to it, it's going to be whatever user input is, right? Because remove spaces needs to accept a string, and it's going to return a string, right? So I'm treating remove spaces as if it were a string variable, and that means in order to see its content, I need to cout it, right? And then I need to end the line like that. And I think that's it. So let's submit this and see if it'll work. Yep, it works. So the for loop iterates through the whole thing. It will concatenate it to my empty string if the character at the index is not a space. Right? And that's why the output is no spaces. The output here is also no spaces. And then over here, no spaces. And this test never had spaces to begin with, so I'll just return the same thing. Okay, so excellent. So we got what we need. Go ahead and look at this code if you need it. So Logan Ashbod, did you get your program to work using pushback? I'm just curious. Oh, okay. Well, I was just the only reason I'm asking is because I was just curious to see if it did work, but you don't have to check if you don't want to.
Oh, I tried it. Mine worked.
It worked?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good to know. So pushback actually can work for strings. That's cool. So you can put a character or a string in as an argument for the pushback function, huh? Or does it only accept characters?
I'm not sure. It was in the Xi books. Let me check.
Okay. While you're checking, I'm gonna get the next lab prepared. Okay.
I think it's just character. The reference to that is in chapter 4.4, like section.
4.4.
Yeah, it's in the string operations.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for telling me.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So good progress. Good progress. So this one's actually our last lab we're doing tonight. This one says 7.14 max and min numbers. So I chose this one because this is also a really simple function. So write a program whose inputs are 3 integers and whose outputs are the largest of 3 and the smallest of the 3. So we're going to have we're going to be making 2 user-defined functions here, right? So if the input was like this, 7, 15, and 3, the output of largest number would be 15, and the output of smallest number would be 3, right? Now, your program must define and call the following 2 functions. The largest number function should return the largest number of the 3 input values. The smallest number function should return the smallest number of the 3 input values. Okay, so it should look like this, right? So what do you guys want to do first? You want to write the definitions? Everyone seems, everyone's leaning towards the definitions. So, and that's a good thing, because writing the definitions first does make the writing the int main much easier to deal with. So we need 2 functions here. This first one, put squiggly brackets like that. I'll put squiggly brackets like that. Yeah. Okay, so given num1, num2, and num3, how would I write this if statement so that I would return the smaller of these three? I'm going to say if, and this is actually quite similar to one of the previous labs we did. I'm going to say if num1 is less than or equal to num2 and num1 is less than or equal to num3, right? Okay. So the way I see it, I'm going to have an if statement with 3 branches, right? Because there's going to be 3 scenarios. One where num1 is the larger of the 3. The second is if num2 is the larger of the 3. And then the third situation is if num3 is the larger of the 3, right? So I'll say if, I'm going to say if num1 is less than less than or equal to, right? Num2 and num1 is less than or equal to 3. Right. So if this situation occurs, that tells me that num1 is going to be the lower of the 3 values. So if that's the case, I'm going to return 1. Okay. See? And as always, if I think you guys already know this from the Zybook section, but if we return on a function, we basically terminate the function and ignore everything else, right? So this is the situation. I'm going to put a comment here. If num1 is the lower of the so now I'm going to have an else, right? Else if. So if this isn't true, let's take into consideration what would happen if oh, my bad. I'm working on largest number first. These should be greater than or equal to. Oh, okay, my bad. I was stuck on thinking about smallest, but okay, it's good I caught that. All right, next one. Now I need to see if I need to consider the situation where num2 is the higher of the 3. So I will say num2 is greater than or equal to num1, and num2 is greater than or equal to num3. If this were the case, I would have to return num2, right? And I guess for the sake of consistency, I'll put the same. Yeah, that's right. It says if 2 numbers are the same, it wouldn't work properly then. Oh, yeah, Arturo Perez. The reason why we're using greater than or equals and not just greater than is because if we didn't use equals to, it wouldn't work properly if two numbers were equal to each other. So let's say that num1 and num2 were equal to each other, right? If we used greater than instead of greater than or equal to, this would evaluate to be false. And because we're ending it with the whole thing would be evaluated to be false, even though this is the case that we are trying to get into. If num1 and num2 were both tied as the largest numbers, then it wouldn't really matter if we returned num1 or num2 since they were equal to each other. So we'll just return num1. Does that answer your question, Arturo Perez? Okay, great. So now I got this. The last thing I gotta do is have an else, right? Now I would insist that I don't need to write an else if, I just need to write an else, because the other two situations cover everything else, right? So I'm gonna say else, I'm return num3. And I will put a comment just the same. Say that num2, and then num3 is the higher of the three. Okay, so that looks like it for my largest definition. Now I can move on to my smallest definition. But the truth is, this definition is almost exactly the same as this one. We just have to switch the greater than signs with less than signs. That's what I think. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna copy these lines of code from 7 to 21. I'll copy this. I'll put it here, but all of the greater than symbols, I will change them to be less than symbols. So we'll change this, 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 and then I'll change these highers in the comments to lowers. Like that. So I think my definitions are finished. Well, I wouldn't really know if they work or not until I actually tried them, right? But that's the reason why we gotta write our main function, right? So what is the main function doing? So the main function needs to take 3 inputs, right? So I guess I'll name these 3 int variables int A, int B, int C. Is that good? So I'll say int A, int B, int C. And then the user is going to put the inputs of whatever they are. So I guess I'll say cin int A, int B, int C, like that. And then next, I have to have an output that says largest colon space, the output of largest number, and then smallest colon space, the output of smaller number, right? So that's real simple. I'm gonna say cout is largest capital? No, it's lowercase. So I'll say largest colon space, and then I'm going to call my largest number function. Oh. But I'm going to be passing int A, int B, and int C to them, right? So int A, int B, int C. And then I need to put a line between, because that's how the output looks, right? And then I will say almost the exact same thing, but I'll change this to smallest and change this to smaller. Is that what I called it? Yeah. Smallest. So by having this here, I will say largest colon space, the output of whatever largest number is, smallest colon space, whatever the output of smallest number is. Right? So here's what I got. The only way to figure out if it works is if we actually run it. So let's actually try it. Submit. It works. So yeah, of 4, 17, and 5, 17 was the largest and 4 is the smallest. 9, 1, and 12. 12 is the largest, 1 is the smallest. Yeah, it passes every test. So go ahead and do what you need to get this code. But as you always know, I will post this video up on Blackboard after this meeting. So yeah, here are our labs. It's a little too big. You can't really screenshot everything, but you guys understand the logic. I think you guys can figure this out. Okay. Yeah. That's it for our labs. Does anyone have any other questions before I wrap up this meeting? Because if not, then I'll just say thanks for coming, and I'll see you guys Thursday. And then on Thursday, we will be learning all about vectors. So be prepared.
I have a question.
Yeah.
What does invalid operands of types constant char mean?
I'm sorry. Say that again.
What is invalid operands of type const char in brackets 2?
Invalid type, that probably means that you're passing something to a function that's not the correct type. Do you want to share your screen and we can look at it together?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me stop my share and give you permission to share. Okay. Go ahead and try sharing your screen now. Oh yeah, I see the issue here. On line 43 and 44, do you see your C outs? You actually got 2 strings in there. That should actually just be 1 string. Yeah, right.
Okay.
There. So yeah.
This?
Yeah. So what what you should type is right there on that line, the double quotes after the first double quotes after smallest. Go ahead and delete that. No, actually that's fine. The first double quotes after the word smallest, you should delete that.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, because you have the compiler's interpreting that as 2 strings, and if you have 2 strings, you should
Should I remove this too?
yes, yeah.
Okay, I might have done that. Okay.
But the colon space should be inside the quotes.
Oh, so should it?
Yeah.
So just put this back and remove that. The like.
Yeah, so you need to remove the double quotes between the word largest and the colon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But you should have kept the double quotes before largest.
Yeah.
Yeah, put that back and
Okay.
remove the remove the double quotes after the word largest.
Okay.
No, I meant okay. I'm gonna type into the chat what you should type.
Okay.
Like that. Did you see what I and Slayman Toki said in the chat?
No, I can't see chat when I'm sharing screen.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Largest colon space is all 1 string. So you should have only double quotes in the beginning and double quotes in the end.
Okay.
Do you want to share your screen again so we can see?
Yeah.
The colon should be inside the
Oh, like this.
colon, and then put a space after that. Put a space between the colon and the last double quotes. Like that. And your smallest
Okay.
formatted the same way.
So just do. Okay. Hold on.
There you go.
All right.
There
Great.
you go.
Thank you.
All right. So, but yeah, that's it. So if no one else has any questions, I'll go ahead and wrap this meeting. Be prepared to learn about vectors in our next meeting on Thursday. But thanks for coming. I'll see you guys Thursday.